What's up, guys? Let's go over the best vampiric powers in Season 2 for Diablo 4. In this video, just as a heads up, I'm not going to be covering every single ability. I just want to go over the best ones. If you do want to learn how some of these work, I already have a video that goes over all of 22 of the powers, but this is basically going to be what seems like is going to be the meta for the upcoming vampiric powers. And I wanted to get this video out before, of course, the season started. So keep in mind, take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to mention some things that have some potential in here that could lead to some game-breaking things that will be good depending on the class. But in terms of like the meta, because every single class can equip all of the powers, they're not locked to specific classes. Some can still benefit of these powers more than others because, well, it just allows the class to benefit off of it via cooldown or whatever the case may be. But starting right off, I just want to go over one of the best ones in the entire game. This is basically hands down. This is going to be in the minor vampiric powers because we have major and minor ones, but Ravenous, this one hands down, it's going to be used in every single build. It is the best one. It requires 3 ferocity, and it has a lucky hit up to a 20% chance to increase your attack speed by 40% of your total movement speed for 6 seconds. Now, what makes this one so powerful and pretty much the best in the slot for every single build, with the exception of course, if you're playing like a Thorns build, the reason why it's so powerful is because it's your total movement speed, not bonus movement speed. So what this means is you have 100% of your flat movement speed, right? So that's how your character starts out without any bonus movement speed. So that's just going to be able to give you 40% increased attack speed, which is basically double or maybe even triple comparing to other aspects that would grant you extra bonus attack speed. And the reason why it's so powerful is because it doesn't have a cooldown. There's a lot of these different vampiric powers will say, well, you can only activate this once every 5 seconds, every 5 attacks, or some sort of condition. Where this one, well, it doesn't have any like internal cooldown on it. You just have to reach that lucky hit requirement in order for it to activate, which every single ability for the most part in the game will be able to lucky hit. So this is going to be used on majority of builds. Now, to explain in terms of the numbers, if you can get the maximum value of total movement speed in this game currently, you can go up to 200% without some sort of like special thing that lets you break the number. So 200% is going to be kind of hard for every single class, I'm going to be honest, to actually reach, but 150% is very realistic for most builds to actually achieve. So what does that mean? 60% bonus attack speed. Again, this is like triple aspects that you're getting on just one of these minor ones. So this is hands down going to be used in pretty much, again, every build with the exception of Thorns. So this is, again, a minor power. The next one is actually another minor power, and these are the two that I'm going to put in what I would consider the S tier for majority of builds. So Undying, which it actually benefits off of having more attack speed because casting skills, so any skill that you activate, gets to heal you for 3% life. You also get to double this bonus while below 50% life. So why is this one so dang powerful? It's actually going to be utilized in another really good one that I'm going to be putting in like the A/B tier here. So the reason why this one is so good is because if you guys remember Siphoning Strikes, which the Rogue had, which got heavily nerfed in one of the patches, and a lot of people were complaining about it, this basically gives you Siphoning Strikes 100% of the time at max value, and it doubles it while you're under 50% life. There might be some sort of point in the game where people may not run this because you've already defeated all of the, new boss mechanics, but for the most part, they said that the new bosses will not be as difficult as Uber Lilith. More likely, they won't have every single mechanic have a one-shot. So as long as you aren't getting one-shotted, a lot of builds can actually benefit off of this, and this is definitely going to be one of the strongest ones in the game, considering it lets you actually heal for a base percent, which can actually be increased with some of the Uber uniques that we normally wouldn't have access to, like of course Grandfather giving us 2,000 plus life. This is going to be actually massive for a lot of builds, especially in PvP since all of the damage reduction. Undying is going to be undoubtedly one of the best ones, considering it costs 1 point over here. 1 eternity is all you need to activate it, and it's going to be great for leveling, and I think in the end game, this one is going to be very, very powerful. So those are the two what I would consider absolutely the S tier ones that most builds will absolutely run. Now let's go into into what I consider like the A and B tier, where a lot of people will be wanting to run these, but keep in mind, there are going to be some that are kind of niche for classes, so I'm going to mention that as a heads up. Okay, so one of the ones that actually has a lot of potential is Hectic. So this one for 3 Divinity makes it so every 5 basic skills you cast, one of your active cooldowns is reduced by 2 seconds. Now this could be great for a lot of different builds that can benefit off of any cooldown reduction. Sorceress is one of the classes where they're heavily based off of cooldown reduction, and they can actually run a basic skill build. You could also do something maybe like a Crone / Druid, Lunging Strike Barbarian, but there are maybe newer builds that can perma activate their ultimate, because you can also get ultimate cooldown reduction. But basically you could just activate one of your abilities that you may want to maintain, and then just spam your basic skill, and with of course the brand new Ravenous one where you get to attack a lot faster. This one is going to be very, very good, considering maybe you can open up the doors for a basic attack build, because we're getting an announcement very soon of the newer glyphs, and I think this one is going to be a very strong one, but it's going to be niche for, again, let's say Barbarians, Arclash Sorceress, and maybe if you want to do like some sort of Crone Druid build. Very, very powerful. Again, we haven't had the ability to like maintain a lot of the skills, so this could open up the doors to a lot of crazier stuff. Again, with some of the stuff that you can actually do in the game via, let's say, a sorceress, you can get, let's say, like 24 ranks of teleport. Now that we have access to Shaco, you may be able to do some really cool stuff with this, granting yourself a bunch of crackling energy, and on top of that, getting even more cooldown reduction. Just you basically Arclash teleport sorceress. There may be some newer builds that emerge off of Hectic, so I think Hectic is a really solid one, but again, it's going to be a little bit niche. The next one is another niche one, which is basically just for Barbarian, because the only other channel skill that I think exists that people even try to make builds work with is Incinerate, but Incinerate, in my personal opinion, is very, very bad. There's not really that many builds using it, but of course, maybe with some new uniques, this could be a lot better. But it's basically just for Whirlwind Barbs. It's pretty good. I'm guessing this is a multiplicative over here, where it says you get to have 40% increased damage when you're using a channeled skill. It's going to form a pool of blood beneath you. So this one, by the way, is a major one. So it's going to require 6 packs. But while channeling a skill in a pool, your channeled skills deal 40% increased damage, and you get damage reduction. I mean, that's pretty dang good. You get a massive amount of damage reduction and increased damage. It says a pool can only form once every 8 seconds. However, it's just while channeling. So if you are able to maintain the resource cost of a Barbarian channel, I mean, just being able to have, you know, that massive amount of damage reduction and the bonus, you can channel for 8 seconds. I think this thing will be very, very great. Again, A and B tier if you are playing Barbarian. The next one I want to talk about is Flowing. Flowing Veins is a massive amount of damage multiplier for damage over time effects, or if they are affected by a vampiric curse, you're going to get extra increased damage over time. This is pretty massive. You don't have that much source of increased dot damage in the game. I know you can throw the purple gems in, but for the most part, this is a massive amount for any build that is going to be doing any damage over time. So that's kind of straightforward on that one. Don't really need to explain that one. And then this one is going to be probably meta for a lot of different builds if you do have some extra room. Sanguine Brace is going to be a minor power, and it just grants you the ability to fortify on your build. So this one's going to be very, very strong, because some builds you just normally can't get fortification on. And on top of that, it has another bonus where you get 8% crit strike chance. This is actually pretty good. It's a great filler option, because most builds will want to have crit in the game, and 8% is pretty massive. That is higher than a perfectly rolled ring at 725 item power. You get 7.5 crit strike chance, and to get another 8%, that's actually pretty big. So this one is going to be definitely a meta, like, solid choice for most builds. And then we have one called Resilience. I'm going to type in Resilience. This one grants you damage reduction for each 2% of life that you are missing. So if you're running a low life Bulwark Druid, this is actually game-breakingly broken. I mean, you can get like 90% damage reduction. There's not very many things in the game that are going to give you, wait, it's for each 2%. So that's, what is that? 40, 45. If you have 90, if you have 90% life missing, let's say you have 10% HP, which again, if you're playing low life Bulwark Druid, you get 45% damage reduction. That is really, really strong. There's very few things in the game that will give you that amount, and other builds can use it. It's just definitely going to be a solid choice overall for most builds. And again, if you combo this with damage reduction on low life, you can just run low life anything. And then if you run the other thing to heal Undying, again, this is going to make your characters extremely tanky, and with the bonuses of the resistances actually working this season, this could be very, very powerful for any survivability. It's going to be great. So on top of that, we have Prey on the Weak. So Prey on the Weak, it gives you increased damage to vulnerable enemies, but enemies are vulnerable while affected by a vampiric curse from your other vampiric powers. So there are a few other good vampiric powers here, but the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is because not every build will have great uptime on, let's say, vulnerability. I know with Sorceress, with like some of the Frost Novas, like you have to activate that to get vulnerability on most circumstances, right? So this is going to be very good for any of the classes that don't have the exploit glyph that applies the vulnerability, or if you just need a source of vulnerability, Prey on the Weak is definitely going to be great. That way you can maybe drop your generator, so you can just focus in on using the vampiric curses to actually apply the vulnerability, which is really good because the enemies are vulnerable while they're affected by a vampiric curse, which a lot of these vampire powers will just apply, or will have a chance to apply. But this one I think is still going to be very good for certain classes, again, like the Sorceress, which don't have like a great consistent source, with the exception of maybe relying on a cooldown. And then Anticipation is a pretty good one as well. It just gives you, having your ultimate have 20% cooldown reduction. You also get increased damage for each enemy affected by your damage over time effects. So if you just apply some sort of poison or any, again, dot, which you can apply via other methods, it's not too bad for that bonus, but it's really just for that 20% cooldown reduction, because cooldown reduction, as you guys know, they actually nerfed it. But with this bonus getting another 20%, I know how it works is it's going to be technically kind of multiplicative, I want to say, unless they change it in the next season. So it's hard. That's why you get reduced. That's why if you get 20% cooldown reduction and another 20%, it doesn't give you 40, right? If you guys know how it kind of adds up in the game, which is unfortunate, but it's still pretty dang good for certain builds. We have the bonus of Preparation on Rogue that got recently buffed. I hope they don't nerf it in the next update, but this could be great for Rogue, Barbarian, even Druid, for your 100% ult time on, like, let's say your Grizzly Rage, or, you know, Wrath of the Berserker, or your Shadow Clones on the Rogue. I like this one a lot, and I think for a minor power, it costs 1 divinity. Yeah, this is a no-brainer for certain builds. And then the other one that I thought was really good that I wanted to put here, is Feed the Coven. So it makes it so your lucky hit on Conjuration, Companion, Minion, Bat, Familiar attacks have a chance to restore primary resource. Now, this could be pretty great because if you are playing the Sorceress, this is kind of more for Sorceress and or Necromancer. I don't know if there's really any Companion Druid builds out there, but for minions, there's actually a huge multiplier. There's like a 50% increased damage that can be actually pretty good as well. So that one I'm going to give a shout out to as well. If I go to minion, there is one where your minions can do a huge amount of damage. So Coven's Fang can be kind of used with this if you want to play a minion build. This one just gives you increased damage to crowd-controlled enemies. But that one, I would consider it pretty good. It's a more of a niche one. But this one, just being able to restore a bunch of resources, so you can basically have like a resource generator, and then you can expend it with, let's say, like, if you want to maybe make a Bone Spirit build with like minions or something like that, you expend everything, or a Meteor build, anything just that expends everything, and you just throw up a bunch of these Hydras, and then you could just have like more so infinite energy, especially during boss fights. This could be actually pretty dang good. So it's another one where I consider it in like the higher tier that you may want to consider. Now I'm going to go into more of the niche ones over here. So I already talked about Hectic being really good. Again, it's very niche for Crone, combo points, even with the Rogue. This is the one where, again, it reduces your cooldowns, so you can maybe get faster cooldowns. You can almost maintain 100% uptime on your poison imbuement with like the poison pool chance, but this could really help out by just getting it even further because, well, the enemy may move off the little poison AoE. So I think this one is going to be, again, pretty good for some of the boss fights that let you kind of sit there and do major DPS windows. I think this is going to be great for keeping up like some of those special like ultimates as well. And then also the other one that I wanted to mention that's kind of good, it's good for Sorceress, Domination, just gives you increased damage to enemies who are stunned, immobilized, frozen, or feared. So I think that one's kind of good. It also gives you an insta-kill, but it's on non-elite, so it really doesn't matter too much. But I think this is just 24x damage, solid one overall. And then this one's more niche as well. This is where I'm going to consider kind of like in the C tier / niche. But Jagged Spikes, if you're playing Thorns, I mean, you have a 10% chance to deal 300% damage. Still not that bad at all for any Thorns build. And then also you have a 10% chance to deal that increased damage and chill enemies. So the reason why the chill is actually pretty useful is because then you could start applying bonus damage to crowd-controlled enemies or enemies that are chilled, which you normally might not be able to get. So I think this one has some potential if you want to just throw in like literally 1 thorns, and that way you just have a chance to, let's say, chill the enemies, building up their stagger bar or whatever the case may be. I think this one has some potential. And then Metamorphosis, I think has a lot of potential as well. This one over here grants you, when you evade, you turn into a cloud of bats, becoming unstoppable for a duration of 4 seconds. And you could basically upkeep that most of the time. And on top of that, they're going to be inflicted with the Vampiric Curse, going back to applying the vulnerability on Vampiric Cursed enemies. This could be actually kind of good to combo with it. Could be kind of like a filler slot that could just, if this breaks, let's say if you're CC'd, which they've already nerfed, just becoming unstoppable is quite good for PvP as well. But just being able to become a bat and having that unstoppable is pretty good. There is an aspect where you can put it on your boots, and when you become unstoppable, you gain an extra bonus movement speed, which again, you can combo with what I considered one of the best ones in the entire game, which was the Ravenous aspect. The Ravenous aspect is super good wherever it was. The Ravenous one, where again you get to have a massive amount of attack speed, which again, it's like triple aspects on it. There's nothing that compares with it. Getting more movement speed once you activate Unstoppable can be great, and if you can keep that up most of the game, I think that people will really like that. It'll give you that kind of speedy Diablo 3 playstyle potentially. And then the one that actually has a huge potential, and the reason why I wanted to include this one, it's kind of untested because again, most of the things in this game, when they deal some sort of set amount of numerical damage, if you guys remember in the previous, like in season 1, like where you get like an explosion, it didn't really matter that if you dealt 10,000 damage because it didn't count as a core skill. It didn't have all these other multipliers, right? This one has a lot of potential though, because you can actually increase your life a lot. Now, if this doesn't deal any damage, then forget what I've said about this one. But this one, I just want to include it because it could be something that's potentially insane. So it makes it so your attacks deal 80% of your maximum life as physical damage to nearby enemies. This one does have a cooldown. It can only occur once every 4 seconds, but you also heal for 1% of your maximum life for each enemy damaged this way. The second part, whatever, it doesn't really matter that much. A small little heal, cool. But the reason why I think it's so great is because it has that ability to get a huge amount of life. Remember, Grandfather will give you way more life. Doombringer will also give you more life. And these Uber Units are finally farmable. So we could look at players maybe exceeding 40,000 life in, of course, the next season, which if you're dealing that amount of damage, that's huge. It could actually open up the doors for potentially one-shotting things, but who knows? Again, most of these numerical ones may not actually have good application. But again, now that we're able to almost double our life in some circumstances can be pretty big. But anyways, those are what I'm going to be considering the best vampiric powers. If you guys want to check out a video that goes over all of them, I'll also pin that down below. But I wanted to kind of make a small little, like, you know, video on what are the best ones, which ones I think are the best, because I got asked that while I was streaming. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell, because very soon we're gonna be getting another live stream update which goes over some of the uniques, and maybe we can update this video once the game comes out so we can actually get our hands on some of these abilities, because some of them may have some weird interactions. Like if you guys remember, Barber actually has a lot of weird interactions in the game that are kind of something that we need to test, but a lot of people want to know what the best ones were before the game came out, so this is the video. But anyways, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.